Childhood Education, Making the World a Better Place. This is Sharon Sarles, and I am promoting congregationally affiliated preschools. I would like it if you would consider starting one in your congregation. We all want to make the world a better place. But how can you tell if you're really doing that, if your ideas are right, if you're making a difference, if that difference will last? I would suggest to you that quality early childhood education really does answer all of those questions. I composed this picture, and of course you see that the unhappy youth in the corner is a staged photograph. The point here is that we know we have many unhappy youth, and if we gave more children a happy younger childhood, maybe we would have more happy youth. You see, it's composed to give a choice. Do you want young people who are in bondage or angry, or will we invest in children at the younger ages? So how do we tell if our ideas are right, if they can make a lasting difference, if that difference will last? Well, we could talk about individuals who have excelled. Haven't they had good home life when they were children? Some good educational experience somewhere along the line? Go and ask the people you know. Go and talk to the people who have excelled and see if someone hasn't invested in them. Let's share all of that which works. Heartwarming stories are motivating. And I'm sure you know of many yourself. You know of some great educators and some great students who themselves have gone on to make the world a better place in their vocation. And it stands to reason that good education will help there. Let's talk about scientific statistics. What is the biggest predictor of academic success? In fact, how do you measure success? It's very difficult to measure success, even to define it. But what we have done is operationalized it into academics, and we can measure grades and academic performance. How can you tell if a study is scientific? What gets published in peer-reviewed journals is what stands for being scientific in our society. How can you see if the finding is reliable? Usually if it's replicated as well as being robustly according to the scientific method. And good news, I have some specific answer for you. What is the biggest predictor of academic success? Yes, money spent in education does matter. Money in the home matters, but the biggest predictor, the first predictor, is church affiliation. Schools that are congregationally affiliated, whether church or synagogue, outperform. And even students who are going to secular high schools that are congregationally affiliated outperform. Here is a meta-analysis, meaning he goes on 8 different studies. This is a robust and replicated finding. So let's agree. Yes, we have at least 1/3 of our nation's children who will necessarily be in group care in early childhood because we have so many families where the mother must work. We have at least 1/3 whose fathers are not in the home. Because we know that quality is better than lack of quality, we are agreed that we need more quality preschool options. And James has told us that the congregationally affiliated preschools are the better ones. And you can verify this by looking around your city. This is not a new conversation. You will discover that in the 90s, a much more famous woman than I pointed out to us that as a society, we would do well to invest in preschool education. And then, 20 years later, I organized, critiqued not only her ideas, but also the responses to it. And I've come up to a similar conclusion that we need as a society to invest in education. But I can see in preschool education, and the best are congregationally affiliated, but what I see is that in the state records, every decade, fewer and fewer congregations are applying for the licenses. If this is the answer to a lot of our problems in society, then let's do that. It's great to have an answer. Let's apply our answer. We need more congregationally affiliated preschools. Let me introduce you to three who were willing to talk to me on camera: Redeemer Lutheran, Crestview United Methodist, and the Early Childhood Program at Shalom Austin, all in Austin. So let's hear from these ladies. And also you'll hear the voice of Barbara Fidello of the Christian Montessori Fellowship.
Okay. Well, this is Terry Sloan from Crestview United Methodist Child Development Center. Thank you so much for being with us. And so you're the director here. Tell us why it's so important that we have congregationally affiliated preschools.
Churches have been in the business of education for a long time. I mean, you think about back in the olden days when schools were in churches, and one room schoolhouse actually was in the church half the time. A lot of churches do education from kindergarten on through high school even. It's only sensible that you would start a little younger now. We have all this space that just sits empty during the week. And it's a good stewardship to use that space. And since it's already outfitted for children for Sunday school, it just makes sense to outfit it a little more and make it into a child care center. Mm-hmm. The other thing I love is that these days we've got a lot of families who are spiritual. They're not attending church. Children are coming to our programs and they're getting a faith foundation. And while they may never ever go to church on Sunday morning, they're getting a faith foundation. And they're learning all about all the stories and about how much God loves them no matter what, and things they wouldn't get otherwise. I find it real interesting that a lot of the parents now were in church childcare as children. And even though they're not going to church maybe, they still want their children in a church program. Mm-hmm. So
there's two sides to that answer. One is the evangelical point. This is, in many cases, the only opportunity that these children get to hear the word and have that exposure to a Christian environment.
Well,
so
this is Reverend Linda Seaman Elford at Crestview United Methodist Church in Austin. Thank you so much for being with us.
Church-based centers
and
are
your
higher
church
quality centers.
has invested
so kids are getting
in
better education here.
Right.
They're getting
Tell us why that's
developmentally
so
appropriate practices. They're
It has
getting
several
exposure
advantages.
to really good quality
one
care.
One is just
and
the
that's
impact that it has on
invaluable.
children. It's a really good quality preschool, helps them, get a good start on education in a fun, creative way. Gives them an introduction. In some cases, the parents may not go to church, but it gives the children a little bit of insight into God as a loving God, a caring God.
By the way, there's tons of research out there. You can find now we're so technologically advanced. For example, you can look on Yale University's Infant Lab, go out and look at some of their YouTube videos. Mm-hmm. And you can see, and we educate our educators on this, you can hook up children now to computers and you can watch their brain explode and how they learn when you give them a play-based environment. Wow. We can now scientifically see it. Wow. You can watch the brain light up. We learn children as young as 3 months old can make moral judgments. And what you have to do is you just understand it may be through stair time, with our infants, and we educate our educators to look for those things.
So we're part of all the JCCs of North America, and get a lot of support for them. And I think we followed, like I said, about 6 years ago, kind of really inspired by the JCCs in New York and in other centers in the country to follow the Reggio approach. And you can only be a Reggio school in Italy, so we're Reggio inspired. So like I said, we made a transformation in our school, almost not it needed to be like over a summer, where it went from looking, very colorful in preschool and very busy, like a very traditional preschool, to a very Reggio, very calm, very child-centered. The environment in all the classrooms changed. We changed over all our plastic toys to more wooden toys. A lot of the classrooms look. They have a home center that really looks like a home center. We really believe in using the children, the teacher, and the environment as very much as a real whole child, just the way the child learns. So all three of those are involved in sort of educating the child, but valuing the parents, the children, the teacher, and the environment. So making the environment the most conducive to their learning. There's a lot of research is showing that very busy classrooms do not lead to the best learning. Also for a child, very busy, I mean visually overstimulated. So you'll find that there's some beautiful lighting in the classrooms, there's some couches, there's lots of outdoor like trees, the artwork is displayed really beautifully, and there's a lot of documentation with it. So again, really valuing, even from infant to pre-K, really valuing what the child's interested in, showing the child that you know what they're interested in by displaying their art and the process that they did.
Tell me that
So
again.
it's what's been found in the literature and in all the studies to really give children the best start in life. So if you want them to be great readers, and you want them to do well in school later in life, and you want them to have medical success, it all starts with even just when they're infants. So, for example, to build early writing skills, you don't have a child practice actual writing, you have them practice a variety of activities that will lead to writing. So it's art, it's just using all their senses. And all those build on each other, and then eventually when the child gets to kindergarten and later on, they have all the fine motor skills and everything they need to be great writers, but it was done in the most natural and effective way, and also a way that comes from the child. We really value the child as a constructivist learner, and we really build on the interest of the child. So them, and they want to learn.
Also,
I would say that's probably the key to it, that you're really valuing the child. So with that comes love, that you're listening to the child and you're valuing them, and I think actually that's probably one of the most important things in a caring environment.
yes, wonderful.
Filling their cup, for later on in life, and that's really underrated value. We talk a lot about educational tests and achievement and that, but I think it's the love and the care and the attention starts at the beginning, setting up for a lifelong foundation of joy and interest and knowing that they were cared for.
And that's, of course, primary importance when we're talking about very small children. Yes. But I can hear a parent ask, but what about learning numbers and letters and colors?
So we do that in a natural way. It's read throughout the day and throughout the year. You're talking to the children, you're showing them environment, the color red. You'll do art with different projects. You'll provide them loose art. You can do a collage with red. There's no way they're not going to learn that this is red, but you're doing it in a way that's super interesting for them. So you could create just like posters of loose parts that are the same color. You could, as I said, with the writing, you're not developmentally writing at the age of 3 with a pencil is not going to help the child, whereas art and using fine motor skills and using pincers and everything and Play-Doh, all these things really help the child's development to write and to not have later on with pencil grip and then with learning. So it's all done in a very relevant way, in a very rigorous way, in a very intentional way. I think probably intentionality is key to this, because everything you do as an educator is with intention. So if you're providing them, you saw that they were interested, we'll take Leonardo da Vinci. That class went to a museum and they saw Leonardo da Vinci, a few of his exhibits here in Austin, and then they kind of ran with it with all the different creations. But through their interest of the artist, then you build in everything else. Mm-hmm. You can provide other, stimulating, you can provide them books and just as many different resources for them to learn about the project that they were interested in.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm sure then.
Or an empty slate, and you write on that slate. No. Children are amazing, and they're neurons, and we learn brain science. Those things are there, and you help those connections grow.
Mm-hmm. What I'm thinking of is that when you're in an environment where you feel loved, where you belong, where you are safe,
yes,
then you can learn and you can take risks to learn in a way that some other environments couldn't.
Absolutely. So part of our philosophy too then is back in the 40s, as Iris was saying, when the regime became, I guess, and then probably you could just go back as far as you want. It doesn't have to have any kind of a fancy name. Mm-hmm. But when you have values attached, that's the key. When you believe that God's going to take care of you, when you believe that your family is extended, maybe it's, here we consider us an extended family. We love the children here. Mm-hmm. And it can, I don't know, I'm sure hundreds and hundreds of years ago you would find the same thing. When you value the children, when you find things that are interesting to them, when you value the parents, when you partner with the parents, when they feel safe in trusting their children to you, and we say to them, new parents who don't know what to do and their child is crying and it's their first drop off, and we understand, many of us, because we have raised children ourselves, but many who don't. But when we let them know that you trust them, love them while you're gone. And those are the words we help new parents sometimes say. It's a reminder to the parent. You can almost see their shoulders relax when you're saying we're going to love them and let them know that you trust us to love them while they're gone, and then they are. And the parents are going to be invested in it, and they're going to trust whatever that you're doing is based on the interests of the child, keeping them loved and safe. It's not just that. You're right. When they feel loved and safe, then they're going to take risks, and then they're going to explore where they maybe wouldn't before.
Barbara, Christian Montessori Conference with Christian Montessori, and yes, I want to hear about your life. You say is Jesus, and that's excellent. But first I'm going to ask you the challenging questions, because I know there are some Christians who will not listen unless we address the challenging questions. And the first one is, how can you be a Montessorian and a Christian? I thought Montessori was humanist or New Age or something else, but not Christians. So tell us about that.
Well, Dr. Montessori says in her book, The Child in the Church. She said, E.M. Standing, her biographer,
Yes.
he said on numerous occasions, Dr. Montessori would say to him, do you know, I really believe that God has given me this method to advance the kingdom of God.
That is exceptional. Yes, because as Montessorians, we know that Ian Standing is, the
Godly man, yes. Yeah.
the biographer, and so she said this.
Yeah, and then also in her books, she says, teachers, you must prepare yourselves spiritually to be with the children.
Yes, well, I think that's in the method, right?
It is in the method.
And she does mention Jesus. Yeah.
And she says, teachers, you need to see the children through the eyes of Jesus.
Cases the parents may not go to church, but it gives the children a little bit of insight into God as a loving God, a caring God, and so I think that's the foundation of faith, and so they're getting that in preschool. They do a Christmas pageant, a lot of things like that that give them not heavy duty theology, but some good basics. It also is helpful. It gives us a great connection to the neighborhood, to things that we do that are so that we're contributing to the neighborhood. We always have a long waiting list for our preschool, and so I think it's something that good quality preschool is a high value in the neighborhood. And just connection with parents, so that when we offer other things related to children, like we do a clothing swap every year before school starts, we've offered parenting programs, marriage courses, things like that that we can let the parents know about, summer activities and things like that. So it just increases our ability to connect with people in the neighborhood in a positive way.
So it helps.
Your eyes are open, and their minds are open, and their hearts are open. They feel great about telling you. You walked in another classroom where they were having a circle time, a community sit down and discussion about different things. And one of the little children jumped up, who is very extroverted and outgoing, and he came right over and gave you and wanted you to come right in.
Yes.
Because for us, that again is that community spirit. The kids are used to people coming in. They're used to welcoming, because that's when you have a values-based education, that's you welcome people. And you ask your name. The other class, the 2-year-old class, what's your name? Was one of the first things, because they're all about. So that's again that community feel, the community environment.
Wonderful. Okay, so we started in the middle.
We've been a licensed center for 30 years. We were founded a little bit before that even. I think the church just saw the need in this growing community at that time. It was a new fledgling community that they could fill a need, and they wanted to go ahead and do that.
I know that this center has been a good center for a long time, and you have a great reputation in the community. So when was it founded, and what was in the minds of the church when they founded it? Do you know?
It was founded in 2000, and it was an outreach to the community. And this church has a very strong mission focus, and they understand this is still an outreach to the community. So,
And yet it's a fairly affluent neighborhood, isn't that correct?
In Austin, fairly affluent is not what it used to be. I would say in the last 12 years that I've been here, when I started, probably about, I would say 30% of the moms were trying to hold down some sort of part-time job from home. It's now more like 70%. It's really hard to make ends meet on one salary now. And so the parents are using this also as a form of childcare, but it's not full time. So it's while the parents may be making considerable money, they're stretching sometimes to make ends meet.
It also is helpful. It gives us a great connection to the neighborhood, to things that we do that are so that we're contributing to the neighborhood. We always have a long waiting list for our preschool, and so I think it's something that good quality preschool is a high value in the neighborhood. And just connection with parents, so that when we offer other things related to children, like we do a clothing swap every year before school starts, we've offered parenting programs, marriage courses, things like that that we can let the parents know about, summer activities and things like that. So it just increases our ability to connect with people in the neighborhood in a positive way.
So you have a half-day program.
Yes.
Okay, good. And so a lot of churches, when they're considering starting a preschool, the first question is, oh, but won't it be a great drain on the budget?
We actually pay our own expenses. churches used to not be so concerned about that, but church enrollment and attendance is down all over in all the Protestant denominations that I know of. And they can't afford to pay our bills. So we pay our bills. We're self-sustaining in that. In fact, we put money away for big expenses that might come up down the road. If we need a new roof, if we need new flooring, things like that, we have money put away to help pay for all of that.
And what is your tuition like compared to, say, a corporate center in the same part of town?
It's hard to compare since we're a half-day program, but that's the main thing. It's hard to compare because most of the full-time child cares don't have a half-day option, and most of the for-profit centers do not have half-day options. The half-day centers that are not church affiliated usually have either some sort of co-oping program with the parents to offset costs, or they are funded through United Way grants and things on that order.
Okay. And so do you pay rent or tithe, or is it just that you have your own budget?
The church figured out how much we use in utilities, and so we pay an average amount each month that covers utilities. We pay for our own janitorial, we pay for our janitorial supplies, we pay for our telephone. I'm trying to think of what else. And we pay a building use fee. So that helps cover
Okay, so
all
it
of
really
that.
doesn't cost the church
It does not
anything.
cost the church.
Right.
It may cost a little bit in manpower because you get the chair of the trustees up here doing little repair jobs for us, but we're starting to do more about paying somebody to do some of our handiwork also.
Okay. And do you have a separate board?
Yes.
You're a separate 501c3?
No, we have a preschool board that that reports back to our administrative board. We have a finance committee chairperson on there, or finance committee representative on there. We have a representative from the SPRC on that, the Staff Parish Relations Committee. And we have a representative from the trustees on our board.
Okay.
We also have parents on our board.
Okay. Okay, great. And do you do any kind of fundraising?
Yes.
So is it the parents?
The parents
Have
do
an
the
event?
fundraising. So they're in charge of the fundraising.
Okay, great. And do you offer some scholarships?
Not at this time. The UMW, United Methodist Women, used to do a scholarship fund for us, but they have not been able to do that in the last few years.
Okay, okay. And what about shared space? I know that's another concern for a church considering this. And so the rooms that you use during the week are Sunday school rooms during Sunday, correct?
In our program here, half of our rooms are also used for either nursery or Sunday school. I've been in places where all of the rooms have been used for Sunday school also, or for nursery or for something like that. We have not had issues here. The only time we have any problem is maybe on a Monday morning we come in and somebody's left a dirty diaper in a diaper pail or something. For shared space, it takes people understanding the importance of both sides and that we have to work together. It's a cooperation thing. So we haven't had any trouble with it.
So is there any advice on how to get to that admirable situation?
I think you have to have great communication with your children's minister, with your church staff, and you've got to have realistic expectations. Because we only have a janitor come in on Tuesday nights and Friday nights. So on Monday morning, whatever's left from Sunday school is there for us to deal with. And our Sunday school teachers know that they need to clean up, and the nursery workers know they need to clean up after themselves. And we also know there may be nursery on a Tuesday night or something like that. So we just know that's what's going to happen, and we just have to clean up after ourselves. And it's been really good. We have one event here that's very popular with the community that our children's minister sponsors. It's a parents' night out, and we know that that's going to have lots of children around, and so we just make sure we lock up anything we're worried about. So cameras, anything like that, they just get locked up so that nobody's things are going to get messed up.
Right, if the community comes in, you
Right.
just are prudent. Okay, good. And what about licensing? Is licensing hard to satisfy? I think that some churches are concerned that they're going to get persecuted. And so has that been your experience?
I've been here 12 years. We have a clean licensing inspection record. I have not had any problems, and our licensing reps work with us. When we had to, we were remodeling this facility, we relocated into a different building of the church during the remodeling. Licensing worked with us on how to make that an acceptable space. They were wonderful to work with, and when we moved back, they were wonderful to work with. I have been in centers where it's been more difficult, but that's been on our end. And I understand churches get worried about liability. Some child gets left on the playground or something like that, they're worried about liability. You have to have good staff and good teachers and a director who keeps an eye on things. But things can happen and have happened in many, many different centers. Licensing is not the demon in this. The concern is you need to run your center responsibly, and that goes from teachers and assistants on up through director.
So the rules are published, and an experienced director knows what those standards are.
Yes.
Yes.
And the staff know what the standards are. And a good director trains her staff to know how to keep an eye on each child and make sure that each child is watched over and that the place is safe.
So that's the number one thing you would say to reduce liability is to run a safe center.
Yes.
And what would you say about liability insurance?
We pay our own share of the liability insurance too. So it's one of those costs of doing business. So
Okay, and so what do you do for curriculum? Do you have teachers who write their own, or have you purchased a curriculum, or what are your thoughts on
my
that?
teachers use a variety of sources. We do not use what people call a canned curriculum, a published curriculum. I have got very good teachers who are very skilled. They know their child development, and I feel like a published curriculum in many ways would hamper their creativity and their ability to respond to the individual needs of the children.
And I'll speak. You have a great reputation. The center has long been
you.
a good center among many
amazing
good
school.
centers in our town. Yes. So many churches, when they're considering starting a center, they wonder if this will be a drain on their budget, if this will be hard or impossible. What would you say to a church board maybe that's considering starting a child development center?
Well, it would be naive to think that there isn't an impact on the budget. There is. I mean, we're running lights and power 5 days that the church normally wouldn't be running it in that building. but we're also bringing in exposure to the community that helps draw some new enrollment to the church. But it's kind of a symbiotic relationship. There's good and there's bad both ways. Yes, we do cost churches money. We also provide them with a lot of income. Our relationship with the church, even as an outreach ministry, we provide them with a lot of money back. It doesn't cover all of our expenses, but it creates a nice balance and helps the church understand the value as well. The church derives several members a year from the school, which helps as well.
Mm-hmm.
The church grounds and the playground are used by the public all week long, whether it's for us or other people. So they're really an entity in the community, and seeing it as a vibrant church. And when you have a program that's offering for children child care, you're more of a vibrant entity, and people draw to that. So there's a huge benefit there.
Right, right. Has it been hard on the church? Has it drained your finances, or has it been difficult?
Well, the preschool predates me, but at least in the time that I've been here, we just kind of work in partnership. We share, the expenses on some things. If it's something that benefits a preschool, they share expenses. So it hasn't, in my opinion, been a drain on the church at all.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the purpose of the church as reaching out in love to our neighbors, it's right in line with doing that. And so it is our mission, even though it's not specifically getting people into the church. It's part of the larger mission of being a blessing to all, to our neighbors.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And some congregations may worry about the liability. Does your board worry about that?
Not particularly. I mean, we obviously have liability insurance, but I haven't ever heard any fears expressed about that. Our preschool director is very careful about safety issues, and really on top of anything that might possibly be anything detrimental that we're doing. So I think we try and take preventive action on anything and that could be a problem, but I feel like our board's been supportive of it.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a values-based community mindset, then you can do anything. You could put a period there, and you can do anything.